need the heat lamp tonight?
I can't imagine. It's going to be such a hot night. I think she'll be just fine. As long as she has enough water, the piggies will be okay. Hi, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Casey.
Welcome to our farmstead. It'll be great when the foundation walls are done and we can build a wall and stand it up when we start the first floor.
We really couldn't do that with all the step downs and bolts.
Nope. Almost done on this part though. Today I'm adding in the extra supports for hold downs and anchoring the mud sill where we spliced it.
Do you think we'll get the beams done?
I'm going to try and get started on them.
The boys and I will keep an eye on the cute piglets today.
So down here on the lower walls we have a couple of things left that need to be done. So we've got a little cheat sheet here. I've just gone through and marked up all of the heights that I need. This board we didn't use because of this, but I think we might have enough. It's going to just barely hit that, so I'm okay with that being sister to something else. It'll still hold just fine. Got our 4 5-foot 7 9/16. We already got our 2 3-foot 7s and our 2 3-foot 7 3/8. So what we need left is 4 full-length boards. So I'll run and grab 3 more and we'll get those cut. So I've got all of my pairs of boards, the ones that are getting sister together, stacked and aligned on the edge, and they came out really nice. So nothing more than a 32nd of difference in any of these, if even that. And I'm just going to go down the line. I'm going to put 1 nail in each side, make sure it's aligned as I do, then that will hold it and it will be good. And then I'll come back and I'll just fill the field. Nailed now, and they will take even more nails, more than likely. Sometimes I'll run a stripe up the back too, but this is sufficient. So these are just brights. There's no PT contact. However, I nailed to the sole or the mud sill first when I attached them, so I'm going to be switching over to the galv nails, and then it's easier for me to work the top once the mud sill's in place. So as we're sistering in this board here, and this is one of the ones that wasn't paired, what I'm looking for in the height is that it doesn't push this board to where there's a gap at the top. So theoretically this should be the same, and if we just hammer it in, once it gets to flat, it will stop forcing that board up. So let's find out. So that looks pretty good. It's basically maybe a 30-second higher, and I think with a hammer from the top it'd probably come down. So we're gonna go ahead and scissor that one out. So that board is actually going to be butted up against a column and the cross beam, carrying column to be specific. So I'm going to get that one up just by itself, and then when we add the column in, I will heavily attach the two of them together. But that should be sufficient for that bearing, given that the column itself is going to be pretty substantial. We're not going to bother with that one with the top because I want it to be able to cinch in nicely against the column when we get to that step. So I'm just going to leave the top unsecured on that one for now, even when we go secure the others. Building the foundation walls this way has not been very efficient. It's always better to build units where you can and then place the whole thing at once. And I would have loved to have built them on the ground and then lift them over the bolts in sections, but it just wasn't going to be practical. If the foundation anchor bolts had been plumb, we might have considered it in spite of the other difficulties like needing to lift the wall instead of just standing it up, since the stem walls, aren't flat to anything. But they weren't. And we also wanted to wait on the built-up double studs for the hold downs until we actually had one of the brackets in hand to make sure that they would fit right. I had the specifications, but it didn't tell you exactly what the on center for the hole for the bolt was within the bracket. So in the end, when working by yourself, you have to balance what you can do without help with what you can't. And then you make the most of what you have when you have a second set of hands. Bonus, missed one. Gonna get that one in first, then the corner back in there next. This one should be entertaining because it's got to go in and then go around a corner. All right, that one's ready to shoot. Just got these guys left. So one thing I'm fairly consistent about trying to do is I always try and start whichever side I'm gonna toenail in just a touch back, maybe an eighth, because the nail, and when you nail it in, will push it forward even if it's fairly tight. And I also try and get it when you're retroing in board like this versus building a wall on the ground. I try and start it off close to plumb, and then that way you don't have it, you know, have the nails loose because the board had a gap on one side and was tight on the other on the bottom. Once you nailed it in, it's going to be sturdier, it's going to stay in place better. That looks good. This one's not actually secured yet. It's going to be sitting on top of a bearing plate, it's just where the on-center ended up being. So I'm going to have to get that bearing plate squashed down really nice, and then this should sit on top of it. I've got a little gap here, and presently more than enough gap to fit over this washer. So when all is said and done, it should be reasonably snug. One more. You may have noticed that there are layout marks on the top plate and that they don't match what is below them. Many of the hold downs are notated to have straps, big metal straps, stacked over them farther up on the walls, connecting floor to floor. This provides a single continuous point of attachment from the foundation to the top of the building, and that means that no windows, doors, or anything else can interrupt that continuous line. And I needed to double check that the concrete guy had placed them all correctly. He was pretty close on almost all of them, and I was able to adjust the ones that were borderline by flipping the hold down to the other side of the bolt.
This will not be silent videos.
I like it that way.
There, finally hit the bottom. All right, so wedge anchor. Got our hole drilled already. You can see we have this collar here and this bell end. So it goes in this way. There's no thread on the top, and it's narrow because this is your hammer surface. And this just goes in your hole. Now, if you have a vacuum or something like that, especially a vacuum drill, those are really nice for this. But now this just gets hammered in, and there. That high-pitched ting sound means it's hit the bottom. Once that's done, then washer and nut. And it will cinch that board down by compressing that collar against the bell end, and then that's what holds it. In building our shop, I learned quite keenly through several setbacks and complications just how important it is to start from as accurate a base as you can. And I'm keeping that top of mind, how much a difference it makes if you get the first steps right to the last steps going smoothly as we build our house. Correcting issues for level, plumb, and true created by the concrete foundation With the wood walls, before the subfloor goes on for the first level of our home, we'll make everything that follows better and easier. Next are the beams or girders supporting the joists of the floor, and that's the final step to making sure our dance floor is flat and ready for the home our kids will grow up in to stand on top of it. Thanks so much for watching.
See you next time.